This review is not about the base Myth game, but I mean, I think a few words about the Myth game itself is probably necessary at this point. Probably one of the more controversial games I own. There were several problems with the first Kickstarter. Although the production quality is very good, there were issues with the rules. A lot of people found the rules opaque, there were bits missing, and I think Megacon Games, the publishers and designers, didn't really respond that well. The other players said the first edition was playable with a few tweaks. I was fortunate enough to come in on the second wave, so with my Myth box came the second edition rules, of which I've had no problems with whatsoever. Okay, very much enjoyed this game. Anyway, it's not a review about Myth, it's a review about a fan-made expansion. Let's have a look at that. Before going to what Myth Dungeons brings new to the Myth world, let's have a look at what you get in the print and play expansion. Okay, first off, a very well written, very clear 12-page instruction book. Full colour, lots of options to do if you don't want to print out the additional tiles needed for the game. Very clearly put together, very well explained. Love the use of flowcharts, made it very, very easy for me and my friends to play through and work out what to do. Lots of really useful tables, very clear. I mean, an excellent piece of work. It has a unified story. Most of this section is to do with the dungeon crawl aspect, which is the main part that Myth Dungeons introduces, hence the name Dungeon in the title, but explains the other elements as well, which I think are equally as interesting, and I can see, as good as this is, this idea be developed. So you get a nice 12-page rulebook, that's fine. You get, I should have counted these, I think there are, is it 10? I didn't actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yes, 10. 10 double-sided tiles that show the sewer system, and this is used for the dungeon crawl aspect of it. Nice and colourful. I should give a shout out to the artist. I think Tobias does reference him in the beginning of the rulebook. So I think the art was kindly supplied by Antal Koeniger. Okay, I'm sorry if you're butchering the pronunciation of your name. These are very sort of standard Myth fare. Okay, it's got the coloured aspects. It has the legend that you're familiar with an additional symbol on some of them of light and dark tiles, which I'll go into later. Give you an example of that. A light tile has a shot there. A light tile has a torch symbol, not in focus. Anyway, 10 of those double-sided, very nice. Okay, and you get a cover piece as well, so you're not sure what the next tile is going to be. Not strictly needed, you could randomise these with a dice roll, there are 10 of them. 10-sided dice make that work quite well. You get a whole stack of tokens to represent aspects of the game, especially realm items and different conditions and barrels and things, which you will need to mount. A whole stack of cards, okay, including trainers, new creatures. What else have we got in here? Oh yes, we're going to the realm items. I think an excellent addition. Realm items. We've got a cover for what Camp Wakonda for when you want to use traditional quest cards as well. Gets using it. Got these additional cards that you can purchase through training. Again, double-sided. These I've just printed off. You can see here. You can print them off like so. And I've got lots of old magic cards, but any old card to do. Pull it in the middle there. Stick it in a little cheap penny cover, fine. They work really well. Okay, some really nice ideas developed in there. We'll look a little bit more as well. And the truly interesting part, well, that's not true. The part that I find truly interesting, okay, is how the system has managed these locations. And again, I've got these all muddled up. Where's the other location? Okay, 3 locations which allow you to explore the different aspects of the existing universe, the module system, the quest cards, and the new dungeon system. Okay, all here. Lots of information, double-sided. Very nice design. These work really well. And for the actual dungeon crawler itself, there are 6 specific scenario or adventures that can be used. Okay, so that's an overview of what you need to print out. As a minimum, you will need these. The rule book, yeah, you can print it out, you can read it from an iPad or computer if you like. There are alternatives for the tiles in the rule book. I don't see why you just couldn't use some standard 6x6 tiles and sort of improvise around them, really. There's just the elements of how they connect together. That's on the ken of most of you. A few cards, okay, but relatively straightforward, printed off very well. Quite a lot of tokens. I must say there's more tokens in the set than I've ever used, so you could probably cut down with not having to print off quite so many of these. Okay, let's see how this thing works. Myth Dungeons provides structure for Myth. The structure or structured play in Myth has always been something of an area of discussion. The original designers had a very free-form game which can still be played, and I know quite a few people enjoy that. There are quests which are like small adventures. Some are only 1 tile, 2 tiles. Sometimes they're linked with consequences whether you succeed or fail of them. And that's quite nice. It provides a sort of a persistent world. And then, because I think mainly because a lot of people ask for it, there are these modules that are brought out as well, which are more in-depth adventures, more structured, and the 2 journeyman modules, Canis and Black Warren, are based around those. Dungeons, Myth Dungeons by Tobias actually brings in more structure, okay, for I think a richer, more interesting experience. It uses part of the Lands of Myth map, the larger map which is available shows the Lands of Myth, and these particular 3 locations you can see here. So we've got River Falls, Camp Wakanda and Wagon Cross. And there is an additional mini expansion, the Weald, which I think is down here somewhere. I haven't printed that out or played with that, but I will be looking at that. 3 locations for a very particular reason. There are 3 styles of play that Myth Dungeon uses. Each location is represented by a location card. Okay, these are very well set out, laid out. I'm going to go over these in a little bit of detail because I do think these are very, very good, and you know, already my mind's buzzing with ways that this can be expanded or do different things with. I think it's a very versatile system. So I've talked about the 3 different styles of play. We can see here this is River Falls, and it has Novice and the things you'll notice. It's got some travel costs I'll go over later. You can see it says Stone of Life. So this location here introduces module play, the module Stone of Life, which is the introductory module available from Megacon Games. So that's one model of play. We also have Camp Wakanda, and here you can see it says 4 adventure quests. So these are the quest cards that come with the original game, and you take 4 random starting quests or standalone quests, just mix them all up, and you place them next to this card, and when you travel this place and take a quest, you draw the first one and that's the quest available for you. So it's nice, it's already tied in a bit of movement. And the 3rd one, which is going to be mainly this review is going to be about, is Wagon Cross. And we see here this little adventure symbol here, dungeon symbol here, Sewers of Wagon Cross, which introduced the dungeon crawl aspect to the game, which is the main core of this game, but ties it all together as well. So 3 locations. These location cards are interesting as well. It's because they all contain, underneath them, location-specific actions that can happen, and they are different. So my experiences at Wagon Cross are going to be different from the experiences I can have at River Falls, can be different from the experience I can have at Camp Wakanda. And that does, when you're into playing this game for a while, does give you reasons why you might travel to one place to another, maybe to get a specific skill or to purchase something. They're all sort of all hidden in here as well. So we're going to look at one of those in a little bit more detail. Okay, so let's look in detail at one of the adventure locations. This is a Camp Wakonda. It's a fortress type of location and it's a novice level. It's an adventure location, which means there can be adventure quests, which is shown here. 4 random adventure quests will be placed, or starting quests, or one-off quests will be placed. 4 random ones will be placed here. There's actually a card in the system that you can place over those, so you don't know what the top quest is till you draw it, or what I normally do is put the 4 underneath here and just draw 1 at random, so it doesn't matter what order they're in there in case it gets knocked or you put in the game away or whatever. We have a travel cost here. Okay, so it's 7/2. And this is the cost from travelling if you're adjacent or non-adjacent, looking back to the map we had at the beginning. So to move to adjacent location costs 2 gold, non-adjacent 7 gold. Okay, it's quite straightforward. All the cards have this little bit of text on here. When you travel to this location the first time, make the top quest card of this location quest deck as the active quest. And they all have instructions such as that. The River Falls have a similar one, that you start the Stone of Life first act. The only one that doesn't have that, after saying all of them do, this one doesn't, the Sewers one doesn't, because that follows its own rules. You then have these specific location actions available, and like I say, these are unique to each location, and you go through them in order. So the first one is advancements. These are mandatory if you meet the criteria. So here we have the number of quests completed. So after completing 2 quests, the party may keep 1 green item or gain 3 gold. Now the important thing to say here is that actually all the titles and all the sort of other advancements that come in a regular game are not used in this game. You just follow what's on the cards. They will tell you can do deck manipulation, when you can gain items or keep items. So it's very self-contained in that respect. And when you've completed 6 quests, the party may keep 1 blue item or gain 5 gold items. So I know there's only 4 adventure quests here, it says at the top there, but remember it could be a starting quest in which there might be 1, 2, 3, are there only 4 ones? There might well be in there as well. Next thing, you can travel to another location. So if you travel to another location, you finish with this card, you travel to your next location. Say we're going to stay here. We can train with Fawn Fleetfoot. One of the reasons why you might want to come to Camp Wakonda is to train with Fawn Fleetfoot. Now Fawn Fleetfoot's an interesting guy. If I can just find what I've done with him. He is a trainer, which is a new system introduced in this game. In which you can buy, purchase, use gold to purchase specific cards to add to your deck. So it's a nice little additional things like Reckless Acrobat, Trained Reflexes, Daring Leap. So it's a nice little added thing, a nice reason to travel to Camp Wakonda. We find sort of relatively early on it's quite nice to get those. And it says to train with him doesn't require any quest to be completed, and you encounter the green trainer. So once you've done that activity, you can move on to the next box. Trade with the weaponsmiths. Okay, so 1 to 3 quests completed, you can train with Bamok, and 4 you can trade with Ilin, which is gives you better deals, as you can imagine. The next 2 are both 5s, 5A and 5B, so you can only do 1 of these. You can either rest at the camp, okay, in which case you reset your AP, serendipity and threats, and each hero gains 3 vitality, costs you a gold, or you can gamble. Okay, so just a skill task, gambling check there. They're all different. If we look at, if you're doing the Stone of Life, all the activities are based on how many acts you have completed. So after completing the first act, you gain 2 serendipity and 8 gold. And then when you've done 2 acts, each hero can do 1 card deck manipulation and so forth. And on the Sewers one, which is the Dungeon Crawl one, the new system, you have these star things which you collect through that experience, which I'll explain later. Now these cards are also double-sided, so when you turn them over, it tells you what how to set up each card. So these are the adventure quest cards. You'd pull out your quest card. gives you some additional information, some additional criteria that might happen. They all have these, or this particular one has, when you set up your roll one fate die, and you compare it to a table at the bottom here, which will tell you what happens. So here we go. So we're going to explore at Cape Wakonda. We decide we're going to explore. We roll a fate dice. Let me just grab one here. Let's see what it tells us we're going to do. Okay, you match the symbol, and you say 6x6 tile quest. With a tribal enemy, we draw a quest card. And that's how we start. Other things are, you might just come across a hunting group, hunting pack. There might be traps to do, but it's quite nice. You know, it's all done for you. Darkness here. So here we have a quest tribal again, and it gives you some events as well. In this case, there'd be a battlefield event, which is up here. Sorry, you can't see it. Another set of criteria. Nice thing is it's very simple, all by one die roll. All the information you need are on these cards, which is another thing I like. There's no flicking through, finding extra rules and things. They're all here. They're all very well explained. Let's see what we've got here. So the Stone of Life, which is River Falls. On the back, it tells you what happens if you need to redo it, or you succeed or not succeed after each act. So really clearly set out. Excellent. The Wagon Cross, a little bit different on the back, so I'm going to go over that in a little bit more detail. So jumping on to how Wagon Cross works, which has the dungeon location, which is the heart of what this expansion has. Quick look at the backstory. Okay, so basically heroes received a letter telling them to meet the mysterious figure called Professor Anthrop at an inn at Wagon Cross. You arrive there and they find that the professor has disappeared. However, you're offered employment by the owner of the inn, and that's where the adventure begins. Okay, so the first adventure is called Sewer Meet. Okay, so let's have a look at the location, the generic location, the main location, and the information that's gained on here. Okay, this goes through quite a few special rules and events that you need to play this particular set of scenarios based in the sewers of Wagon Cross. Fear the darkness, high alert, torches and wet feet, all conditions that may happen when you're in the dungeon. Again, you don't need to worry about them until they happen. Other events, sewer gas and mysterious the mother, which you'll find out about later. And this all important exploration and events table down here, which we'll look at shortly because it combines with the individual scenario. So here's the individual scenario. Sewer Meet, scenario number 1. The person giving you this adventure scenario is Erin. It tells you the target is, because this is based in the dungeon using the 6x6 dungeon tiles, your target is to get to the 6th to 8th tile in the dungeon, or in this case it's actually the cellars underneath the inn. When you get to the 6th one, we start rolling, see if we roll a 6. If we don't, we go to the 7th, roll a 6. Otherwise it will automatically end when we get to the 8th. It is a starting scenario, so it's only got 4 white skulls, and this symbol shows that it can be repeated. A little bit of text, what you actually need to do. So the story here is that the inn has a delicacy, this meat delicacy, which is sort of like pickled or preserved meat in his barrels he keeps in his cellar, but the cellar's been overrun by crawlers and your job is to go and collect some of the meat and to clear out the crawlers. So to collect at least 6 sewer meat counters by searching the barrels and to leave the dungeon by an exit. And if you collect 9 or more, you get a bonus. What happens when you succeed? Okay, the sewer meat counters turn into gold. And if you get 9, which is the bonus, you get one of these stars which you can spend on achievements on the Sewers of Wagon Cross card. And also what happens if you don't succeed. Okay, you then flip the first one over. It has a list of the required components. Some of them are generic ones from the main game, some are specific to this expansion. Has some setup information which you need to read. So you place 1 exit RO, and that's a realm object. So that's on our opening tile. If you've got no torch counters, you gain 3 torch counters. So we've got no torch counters, so we start with these 3. We have to buy them in the future. And heroes start on a tile edge furthest away from the purple outlined squares. Well, that's nice and simple. There's our target to 6th and 8th and what happens when we reach there. Worry about that later. And it tells us that monsters are going to spawn on unexplored tile edges closest to any hero. Okay, so there's explored and unexplored tile edges. So if we go any further, let's draw our first tile and see where we are starting. So the tiles are all here, all randomised. Okay, I'm just going to take the top one and we have this tile here. Okay, so it said we start, so I've got two heroes I'm going to start with here. They start opposite the purple tile, so I guess somewhere along here. Now there are blue squares here, and there was a thing called wet feet, so we'll just have a quick look, see what that says. Heroes and monsters can enter water squares, blue outlines, leaving a water square costs an additional movement point. Okay, so I don't think we're going to start in the water. We will start here, okay, on the edge. We also have our startup information that we have placed one exit realm object. Now the realm objects work really nicely in this expansion. You have these realm object cards. So whenever you need a realm object, you pick the card, it tells you everything you need to know. No looking for a rule books or checking anything else. So here we go. Shows you the picture of the exit. There it is, tile. And it says random white corner square. Okay, so it could be where I'm on at the moment here. So I'm going to say, well, we've come down the stairs here into the cellar. We're going to start on there. Then tells us when you're on the same square as this realm object, you may leave the dungeon. So you may leave, but it's obviously I've just arrived, so I'm not going to be doing that. And then we have infinity symbols. So we're going to do so many times like leave the dungeon. 1 to enter that square. No roll required, and basically remove your hero from the tile. You can't return. Okay, so we know what that realm object is. Let's see if we can keep that side of the board as a reminder. Okay, now we come back to this really nice, clever part, which is these exploration tables. Okay, so here's the generic one for all the Sewers of Wagon Cross adventures, and the specific one for the adventure we're on slides underneath to make a complete table. And this is all you need for all the rules for this particular adventure are here. So it starts with a darkness event and activation, but it hasn't happened yet. We get straight to the exploration. So roll when revealing a new tile, which we just have done here, and you roll 4 fate dice. Match the symbols and it's going to tell us everything we need to know to set up this tile. So here we go. And we match them. So I've got no darkness symbols, which is excellent. It means I'm not going to meet any of those. A single candle doesn't do anything. A single one of those doesn't do it, but 2 of these do. This matches... doesn't match any of them. So I haven't rolled anything there. Okay, so this would be a relatively clear tile. There are some things I always have to do. If you look down here, always, you place 3 realm objects, 3 barrels. These contain the meat. And again, you look for the barrel card, it's here. It tells you what you need to know. So choose purple squares, I've put them on the purple squares. Roll 1 fate dice whenever placing this realm object and assign the resulting fate attribute. So we're going to roll a dice for each of these and add one of these fate tiles that match the symbol. Any hero who matches that fate symbol gets +3 to their die roll. So just for example, this one here, you roll it, it would be matching one of those. So any character that matches that would get +3 to the die roll. Just randomly I place on obviously a rage. That'd be good for the hero. So in this particular one, that's going to be quite straightforward. You notice that there isn't any light on this. There's no light sources, so it's called a dark tile. And the dark tiles tend to have negative effects when we get to the darkness phase. In this particular instance, I probably wouldn't do anything because it's a pretty safe tile. I can go and search those and I'm going to carry on searching. But say for instance I'd roll and let's make a different roll, see what we get something different. Okay, so say I rolled this and again we know those 2 aren't going to do anything. We have 1 candle, that's not going to do anything this time, but we do have a darkness symbol which matches 1 here, which would be a hunting pack of 6 minions. Okay, we know these are going to come on an unexplored tile edge closest to the heroes. We've got 2 unexplored tile edges shown by these little triangle symbols here. So this is the closest one. So these are actually going to pop up right next to them. Obviously heard them coming down the stairs. I think we'll have 3 melee and 3 ranged. I have 3 torch tokens, so I could drop one of these onto this tile to make it a lighted tile. And again, if I felt the darkness cycle was going to trigger, or other events might require that, then I would do. But probably in this case, I wouldn't. Okay. At the end of this, I would then play it as a regular myth game. Say, for instance, we clear these out, which I think is pretty quite likely. We clear the barrels, gaining some sewer meat. Okay, again, we don't want to loiter or anything like that, but we do have 2 unexplored edges. And we go to either of these, spend an action, okay, to explore, which will place a new tile down. So, draw another random tile. Here we go, we've got one that's crossroads. You place this. You do all the same things that we did previously. So we know we're going to have 3 barrels in the purple area for me to explore. I'd roll my 4 fate dice, match these symbols to anything on our events here, and again, not a lot this time, again just another 6 minions. But there can be other things like captains arrive, there can be traps, there can be sewer gas, there can even be something called the mother, which you don't want to bump into early on. And a nice one, if you could get another one of those, that's excellent. This would place a mushroom object, which you can collect for curing poison, and obviously exit. So you carry on this way, and it works very, very well. It's very smooth, very easy to play. Very nice. Obviously, this is the introductory adventure, so it's not too dangerous. I think if you meet the mother early on, you're better off just running away. But otherwise, it's very straightforward. It works very well. You know, I've got nothing but praise. It's an excellent system. Okay, well worth doing. And you can see as you go along, the adventure can build up. We get to this particular tile here. If I can get it in place without the light glaring on it. You can see there's no way out of this tile, it's sort of a dead end. Okay, if you ever get to a place where you can't move anymore, you can just swap the tile and get one that you can move on. Okay, so you never get to dead ends. And when I get to the 6th tile, I'm going to start rolling for that target number. If I did get that target number for my final tile, I'd go back and check what I do on the final tile. So gain 2 serendipity, randomly place 1 insect lair with its initial spawn, place 1 exit realm object, monsters stop spawning from the tile's edge and now spawn from the lair instead. So destroy the lair, you've cleared out the cellar. It's right, nice, you know, it's a good introduction, nice, simple. Some of them are quite difficult, and there's lots of really interesting realm tiles that keeps it, each mission, each adventure keeps it interesting, fresh. Okay, a few closing remarks about Myth Dungeons then. All in all, fantastic fan-based expansion. You know, if this was a commercial expansion, I would have no hesitation in recommending it as well. I love print and play. It was easy enough to print off. Things I really admire about the design, I think the locations are excellent. I really appreciate the fact that 3 locations allow me to use my existing myth components. That's fantastic, and it links together very well. The specific dungeon crawl part of it works excellently. Really enjoyed it. The fact that each tile's unexpected, sometimes they're easy, sometimes they're very difficult, and the fact that you slot the adventure cards exploration table onto the generic one means that they do increase in difficulty and they vary them. Great. Nothing. The storyline for the sewer one, absolutely fine. You know, very much enjoyed that. Stone of Life I've played before, so it was nice having that included. I had some players that hadn't, and that was very nice. The fact that each location has unique events make it worthwhile moving around and visiting them. Particularly liked what worked well for us was the having Camp Wakanda with the adventure quest location. So what happened is a couple of times where not everyone could make it, we went off to do a couple of these, you know, which is quite nice. It allows you to carry on the adventure while other players weren't there, and that worked really well. So these are very well designed, very easy to follow. I really like those, you know, they work really well. The second thing that I've got nothing but praise for are the Realm cards. Okay, when I first saw they were on cards, I thought, oh, is that a bit of a faff? I'd probably just prefer to have an A4 reference card, but actually these work brilliantly. They're very clear. You never have too many out at once, and the fact that as your game moves around, you can bring it around, and when it's someone else is doing something, you can quickly pick one up and check what you need to do. That's worked really well. You know, really pleased with that. Negatives, not many. Really found very few issues during play, and there was nothing significant enough that I had to contact the designer. In fact, if I come across anything major, I would have written it down, and I didn't. I'm sure there's a few things we fudged here or there, but we're in the middle of a session and enjoying ourselves, and that was fine. And again, there was no show stoppers, which you know, considering that this is written in English, and I believe the author Tobias is German, you know, it's fantastic. You know, his English is excellent. Really enjoyed the flow diagrams and the charts in the rule book, super clear. You know, Tobias has got a very clear vision of what it takes to play these games and what questions come up, and that worked really well. Things that weren't so great, weren't really anything significant. I mean, I think it boils down to if you enjoy Myth, this is just another great way of playing Myth. You know, it really enhanced the experience for myself and the other players. Some players might be bothered by the fact that it's not one overarching story, so why go off and do some quests? I sort of think of it more like my old role-playing games when I was younger, that, you know, we'd play a campaign that would make up of lots of different sort of adventures, really. You can do these adventures in different locations. Saying that, I think there's lots of room for it to be expanded and even possibly have one overarching story at multiple locations. I'm definitely going to download and print off the Wheeled mini expansion, which I believe is designed by someone else that Tobias has sort of put into his system, which is great, get new people's ideas and input on that. I've got nothing really for praise. I think this is a very sleek, well put together, interesting design that really enhances the play of Myth, and I recommend it wholeheartedly. You know, if you're not too sure about it, download it, it's for free, read the rulebook. I think you'll find that it only enhances gameplay. So yeah, thumbs up recommendation from me.